Welcome to the Welsh Yogi Podcast.
Welcome to the Welsh Yogi Podcast, where we're going through Sri Upanishad. We will have some more guests on soon, but we thought we'd carry on going through the wisdom literatures at the minute.
Yeah, we're really sorry that we missed 2 weeks.
No, 1 week we missed, isn't it?
Yeah, we missed a week. But you might not know, but this time of the year is festival party season for the Hare Krishnas.
Yeah, so we've been having festivals.
Charlie. Anyway, yeah, there's a big festival. Was it last Sunday or the Sunday before?
Yeah, Gaur Purnima, the full moon festival.
Golden Moon, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it, golden moon, yeah.
We invited some people to Tea Krishna. Thanks for coming if you came.
Yeah, it was a nice day.
It was nice, yeah. But
Right, so we got Ben, me, and Charlie. What mantra are we on now? Mantra 9.
Thanks, Charlie.
Yeah.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so we'll read the Sanskrit of mantra 9, and then we'll discuss. You said this boggles your head, this verse, doesn't it?
Yeah, I just can't get like I said, I can't make heads nor tails of it.
Andam tama pravishanti ya vidvan upasate. Sorry, ya vidyam upasate. This is the Sanskrit. Tato bhuya eva tetamo ya u vidyayang rataha. So, oh bless you. Those who engage in the culture of nescient activities. So that's activities that don't foster intelligence in it. Like science means to light up or to understand. Nescience is the opposite. It means to not understand, sort of thing, right? So activities. So those who engage in the culture of nescient activities shall enter into darkness, the darkness of ignorance. Worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. So this is interesting in the purport by Srila Prabhupada, whose mission is to teach this sort of ancient Vedic wisdom to the world. He says that, I'm paraphrasing, but he says, even though this was spoken, like this Ishopanishad, this literature was spoken thousands of years ago. He says this verse is more relevant now than any other time in history. Because what this verse is saying, that those who are engaged in sort of, they're die-hard materialists or ultra-materialists. In Sanskrit, it's called asuras. Those who just, just go into trying to enjoy this world, don't think about things in a deep way. Okay, they're sort of, if you live like that, you end up unhappy because you're naturally spiritual, but you're cultivating a material lifestyle. But worse is pretending to be knowledgeable and saying, oh, I know this is you're claiming to know something as true, and getting other people to follow you. And also, if you have some knowledge, but that you're engaging that knowledge in materialistic pursuits and therefore causing a lot of trouble for everyone else, Like I think of some example like nuclear weapons, for example. You can there's definitely some scientific knowledge involved in creating a nuclear weapon, but when that knowledge is engaged in ignorant activities, then that's worse than just innocently almost. Yeah. Is that's what this verse of Sri Upanishad is saying. So I think when Prabhupada says it's more applicable today than in the past, because today in society we've come on leaps and bounds in terms of knowledge, especially scientific knowledge, but because the understanding of the soul isn't there, it's creating more and more chaos.
So yeah, knowledge can be quite a dangerous thing, right? So if you've got a little bit of knowledge, but you're missing the point of the knowledge, because this Vedic knowledge it's quite vast actually. Like there's Vedas on all kinds of different things you can imagine, like architecture, poetry, science, philosophy, like everything.
Yeah.
But like I guess this sort of school of the Vedas is Vedanta, isn't it?
Mm.
Which anta is the end.
End of all
Conclusion.
knowledge.
Yeah. So Vedanta is the end of all knowledge.
Mm.
So like when you have knowledge and you're engaging it in that way, like because ultimately the purpose of all of knowledge, because Veda means knowledge if you don't know, but the purpose of all knowledge is to actually connect it back to the source, isn't it?
Mm.
Connect it back to Krishna ultimately.
That's interesting, isn't it? That concept of a conclusion of knowledge, you know? So like, I don't know, you know, if you go to university or something and you study some topic, you know, you have, I guess, I don't know how, it depends what you study, I guess, but when you've got a conclusion of knowledge, you know, like when I used to work in a joinery shop, the people who owned the joinery shop, they would teach the apprentices stuff, but there's certain things they purposely would not teach. Like there's like the mathematical equation. Like one of these people, what they would do in this joinery shop, they would build and sort of install staircases. That was one of the things we did. We used to install staircases and install Dropbox windows and stuff in like listed buildings. But the one thing that they didn't really teach was on purpose was the equation and how to work out something to do with the angle of the stairs depending on how you place it in the building. There's some little technicality like that. There's some trick to it.
Yeah.
And they didn't teach that because obviously if they taught all the apprentices that, then they can start their own business sort of thing and put them out of business. But it definitely seemed like there was almost that was just an example of a conclusion of knowledge that you get something substantial. And I guess the Vedas do approach like, okay, there's all knowledge in the world. There's an ultimate sort of conclusion to all such knowledge. And that ultimately is Krishna and understanding the spiritual nature of the living being.
I feel that that's kind of what this verse is talking about. So people engage in nescient activities. They're people that aren't aware of what the goal of this knowledge is, you know. Like they don't know what the purpose is. But worse are those that are engaged in the so-called culture of knowledge. So meaning, if you do, I lost my train of thought then. The cough threw me off. But no, so what was I saying?
I don't know.
No one's listening anyway.
Charlie, do you know what you were talking about?
I think basically, so people who don't know the goal,
Yes.
they're on one level. But then people who have knowledge but they're not aware of the full goal, they're worse than people that don't have knowledge. Is that what
Say that again.
I don't know. I'll just say that again. I'm just trying to piece this because, like I said, this verse every now and again I come across a verse and it just twists my mind around.
Yeah.
I'm sure other people out there have a similar problem.
Well, it uses example, isn't it? Was that example in the purport of a snake? A snake with a jewel on its head.
Yeah.
So a snake with a jewel on its head is more dangerous than a snake without, because I guess you'd be attracted to look at that jewel.
Yeah.
I won't mind one of those.
Bites your hand off.
Bites your hand off. So I think that's the sort of principle is that, okay, you can cultivate like that materialistic activity if it's backed with knowledge, but knowledge to the material end, it's worse because it's almost like empowering that, I don't know. I'm sure there's statistics about the increase in things like, I don't know. I'm just trying to think like, you have people who are probably into some quite dark stuff.
Yeah.
And the fact that the internet's invented helps these people go into that dark stuff more and more, for example.
No, that's a good example.
So I think the fact that, worse than the people going into the dark stuff is those people that engage such sort of knowledge to magnify that.
So in other words,
something like that.
Yeah, so knowledge actually speeds you up in going in the wrong direction. Because it says that
It's like putting a jetpack onto your materialistic
onto your
pursuits.
descent into ignorance. But no, it's like, because ultimately Vedanta, the end of all knowledge, is to connect to Krishna and sort of escape this realm in one sense, this material world of suffering and sort of like, but if you're just like constantly chasing the temporary things, then you're just going to stay within the bubble.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're not helping the situation.
Yeah.
Even though you got knowledge, like you might have PhDs and so many other things, but you're not helping if you don't have the right kind of knowledge. So that's why there's nescience, there's ignorance, but then there's so-called knowledge, or the Sanskrit is vidyayam rataha. And then Prabhupada in the purport, he quotes from the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna calls them the Vedavadaratas.
Vedavadaratta.
Yeah,
Nice.
Vedavadaratas, who just, say they follow the Vedas, spiritual knowledge, but actually they do it for materialistic goals. And they twist and turn all sorts of bona fide spiritual knowledge. And you get that in all religions and in all faiths and aspects of spiritual knowledge and material knowledge as well, probably. People who say like, oh yeah, I read the books, but this is what it means.
Yeah.
But actually it's wrong, and it gives the wrong conclusion. You've got to be careful.
So how do you get the right conclusion out of the knowledge, Because, people are cultivating knowledge, I'm sure. There's many people out there that are trying to figure out the meaning of life. The unexamined life is not worth living. That's what one of those Greek philosophers said. So people are examining life. But how do you make sure that you're engaged in the correct pursuit, rather than just expediting your descent?
Yeah. I mean, I've got my answer sort of off the cuff. I'm just looking through the purport now to see if I can see if Srila Prabhupada mentions anything like that. He talks about there's bona fide spiritual masters. And obviously but some people follow ones that are unbona fide. But I definitely, at least off my first initial thought, at least what I always think, is that you do have to do some investigation sort of thing. You can't just believe you can't just type in YouTube spiritual meditation and just watch the first video that comes up and assume this guy knows what he's on about, That's why we have these books. That's why we have what's called Shastra, which means you do your investigation into authorized books of spiritual literature. You then find a saintly person who knows that spiritual science, and if applied, this spiritual science you should feel the illumination in your consciousness.
Yeah.
And from a teacher, we were talking about this morning in class how Kapila Dev, who in Srimad Bhagavatam, he talks about the qualities of a saintly person or a sadhu, and they are tolerant, they're merciful, they show compassion to people, peaceful. They are friends to all living entities. All living entities. They don't, make friends with their pets at home and then go eat another animal. And they don't make friends with some people and then hate another type of people. They're friends with everyone. They have no enemies. Which means that it doesn't mean like, because naturally people, like Jesus Christ got crucified even, But Jesus was saying, please forgive these people. So people might have seen Jesus as an enemy, but Jesus had no enemies, So it's the vision of that person that he doesn't see these people are my friends and these people are enemies. The sadhu is also described, he always acts according to spiritual injunctions. So his conduct and the culture he follows is always in line with spiritual principles for the greater good. And the last quality, which I guess is sort of like a bit of an umbrella, it says all of his qualities are sublime. Nice. Such a person, he's saintly and he floats through this world,
So I guess what you're saying is you have to have the knowledge, but you need that teacher in order to sort of unlock it.
Look for such a person and don't take it cheaply, but there are people out there, I mean, that's what attracted me to the this ISKCON movement of Srila Prabhupada, is that there was sort of examples of people of this sort of caliber of character. And once I got over the hurdle of, okay, this is an institution, like I was like some sort of church, you have this understanding that spiritual must be something that's very fluid. Like I'm going to find my spiritual guru off in the forest somewhere in India. Yeah. But as soon as I come into an institution with rules and regulations, then you're just, I guess I was thinking you're dealing with something that's, I don't know, in some sort of like you
It's
know,
like touched by
patriarchal
man. Yeah, like-
structure sort of thing. But no, actually, the more you investigate it, it's like, no, you know, there is a society, an organized society, and there has been from, you know, time immemorial, a sort of society in this world that's designed to help humanity spiritually. So that's really having an open mind, is, you know, even what initially might be a hang up, like, oh, this is an institution, but actually investigating it and seeing, okay, yeah, if you find people of quality in here, then it helps to have an institution. That's ideal. If you've got an institution full of these people and designed to help people advance spiritually, then that's ideal. Because if you find someone up in the Himalayas or the forest, they might give you some instruction as a one-off, because there are such people, but how are they going to help you day to day?
Yeah.
And
you need those examples of people who have followed the path a little bit further than you. Like, that's one thing when I came, like, just the character of people that are practicing this seriously. You don't really find something like that. So I just wanted to become like that, you know.
it's for not like,
I want some of that.
yeah,
Especially like when a spiritual master rolls through. Dave Marita Swami comes to Wales usually twice a year when it's not COVID. But you just see this, like you said, sublime
they're
character.
on another level. I remember, I mean, first, even just the devotees in the temple, when I first came to the temple, even just, you know,
Just an average guy, like.
yeah, the guy who greets you at the door, you know. I remember seeing Prema Ras, and he just looked effulgent, you know.
Yeah.
And like he had this effulgence, and he just looked very pure, and I've never seen anyone like that before in my life, you know. And then years later, I mean, His Holiness Keshava Bharati Swami, when he came to Cardiff, and he was doing a talk trying to encourage people to come to spiritual life, the heartfelt plea that he was sort of giving to everyone, and he had tears in his eyes, you know, out of compassion, begging people to take up spiritual life in order to stop their suffering. You know, that had a profound effect on my heart. I was thinking that, wow, this person, you know, such genuine, heartfelt compassion, you know, from someone, and he's not doing it to gain anything.
Yeah.
You know, these people, you witness that they sacrifice every second of their day to help other people spiritually and materially, and it's just that's an example.
Yeah, they just operate on such a deep level, you know. Like, a lot of us, we're, like we discussed last week, we're in this body. A lot of us act like a body, like we, oh, I need some food, I'll go eat some food, just bumbling around, like. But these people, they come from that deep place, you know. Like, they're able to cry out of compassion, and like, I'm like a stone compared to that, you know. Like, I'm just like, it's just like, and like you said, the everyday person who's in the temple, in the community, has like a real touch of that, because Prabhupada talks a lot about this parampara, you know, like, so coming in line, in a line of like guru to disciple, like teacher to student, and it's like you heard it described like when you have snap a twig off a tree, isn't it? It's like when we're not connected to this like really powerful spiritual line, we are like just a twig snapped off a tree. There's not so much life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I guess those people have that kind of throughway.
Yeah, you're connected to the spiritual powerhouse sort of thing.
Yeah, that potency. Like,
You got to connect to something. You know, you judge people, like, you can sort of, I don't know what to say, but, you know, you can, one way to judge people, not to say you should judge anyone, but just to give some idea, is what's their aspiration, you know? Like these, you know, I was in college, you know, it's like, oh yeah, we were the art department, and then you've got the graphics department, you've got the drama department, you know? So, I mean, that's, I was sort of, one thing that I really appreciated when I lived for a monk for a while, and now sort of just being around Hare Krishnas so much, you know, is that you're like, I appreciate, wow, these are deep people, you know. These are people who, even at young ages, have really you know, gone against the grain, you know, just not followed what everyone else is doing, and just decided I'm going to dedicate my life to something profoundly deep. You know, I'm going to really investigate about what my position is in this world, and I'm going to perform, you know, austerities in order to understand this knowledge. I'm going to study deeply, and I'm going to dedicate my life to uplift other people, you know. And just the subject matter that they would think about is like, wow, that's really profound, you know. I thought, anyway, yeah, this is really sort of a good example of what human life could be.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just day to day, just, you know, trying to, you know, put the bread on the table, or even just trying to, I don't know, enjoy socially in any way, but it's got a real purpose to it, like we said about Vedanta, you know.
Yeah. It's connected to that end game. It's like part of the.
It's the end game.
Yeah, if you like video games, it's like part of the main mission. Like all these other things are side missions, you know, like walking around, getting a job, doing this, doing that. Like, don't get me wrong, having a job's good, but if you're not connected to the end goal, what's the point?
You got to have both. In Sanskrit, it's called Vyavaharika, which means the activities you've got to perform in your day-to-day life. You know, your job, your family.
Brush your teeth.
You have, you have to do that. You know, it's called Vyavaharika, but then you have Paramartika, which is the spiritual practices that a human being is meant to do. So at the minute, we've only got one piece of the puzzle.
It's like 2 tracks on a train.
Yeah.
Like if you take one of the tracks away, where's the train going?
You need both, you know. Similarly, you can't just be spiritual. I think, I'm just going to wander around naked thinking of Krishna, you know, because
Charlie.
Because you live in this world, you've got duties to perform.
Yeah.
So we're not saying go too far the other way either.
Yeah.
We're saying is just you got to do both.
Yeah.
You know. You know, you get some rare people who are completely spiritual, just like you get people who are completely material.
Yeah.
You know, but those people who are completely spiritual, they're qualified for it, and they've you know done what we have to do in previous lives, and God knows, you know.
That's something Taryn have told me very early on when I first moved in. He said like, Bhakti yoga is like the middle path. So you have people that are going for the all-out sense enjoyment, like really trying to be super sensual and enjoying that, you know, like food and drugs and sex and everything. And that's one side of the spectrum. Then you've got like these yogis that practice like crazy austerities. Like there's yogis in India, and they'll light a fire in the middle of the desert, and they'll sit in the middle of the fire, and they just sort of meditate and like try and transcend their body in that way, or they'll like plunge themselves within ice water, you know. And like that's the path of jnana. So you've got like karma and jnana, but bhakti's the middle. So we've got some austerities. We'll have a cold shower in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Like we'll do some difficult things. Like sometimes if you're out trying to sell books, it can be pretty like difficult, you know, especially when it's pouring down with rain. There's austerity there, but then we'll have a big feast and a party every Sunday. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like it really is the middle path, and it's such a nice. It's so much more balanced and so much more natural to being a human being. Because when you're in the burning fire, that's like, okay, doesn't sound very human to me. Like it sounds like freaking torture. And then when you're just filling your mouth up with all of, I don't know, whatever they do for enjoyment, it's more like an animal, isn't it? So that's not human. But when you're in the middle path, it's like a human life. Like I don't know about.
Yeah, Krishna
like
says, "Susu kamartamavyayam." Susu kartamavyayam.
Is it Charlie?
It's blissfully performed. You know?
Oh yeah. No, it is. That's true as well. Like.
Yeah. And Prabhupada said once, now is by practicing Krishna consciousness, you do get an idea, okay, this is true, tangible reality, you know. But I remember Srila Prabhupada who said once, I remember listening to a recording, he said, you know, because someone said, what if this is illusion, you know? What if your spiritual life is illusion? You know, to Prabhupada, even though he, you know, tasting spiritual life, he said, look, so even if it's illusion, still, our illusion is better than your illusion.
Yeah.
You know, our illusion is we sing, dance, chant, have nice food, nice association. We're going back to Godhead. You know.
Yeah.
Your illusion is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's people are so. One thing I got from going out and Sankirtan and distributing books is just even your average person you meet on the street. Like I've met probably thousands and thousands of people over my time sort of going out. And you can see in their eyes they are spiritual, you know. There's people are deep, you know. Behind every face, there's a whole story there, you know. Like, we can't take anyone for granted, and it's easy to do that, especially if you see like figures of numbers and stuff, you know. But just every person is so special, you know, and that's one of the qualities of a sadhu, is find someone, you know, if you're looking for a spiritual teacher, the person who sees and teaches you to see everyone as special individual spirit soul. Yeah, that's and then this Bhakti yoga then helps that fan that spark. You know, you can see people. I've seen people really come into their own as they just practice a little bit of the Bhakti yoga lifestyle, and it just adds the chanting of Hare Krishna to your life, and that's all it is. Just adds the Hare Krishna mantra, chanting Hare Krishna, and everything will come from there.
Yeah,
but
sure. But yeah, like the point we're making as well, the chanting Hare Krishna, but also like connecting to that energy in one sense, like connecting to the people. You know, getting that quality association. I think it's so important, because like we were just talking about Guru Purnima, isn't it? The festival we had. Guru Purnima. We had a festival on Sunday, and I was in the back room like with the books, and we had. Do you know the mother and sister from the Spiritual Fitness?
Oh, Melanie and Katie.
Melanie and Katie. Yeah, I was chatting to them, and they're really like you said, bright sparks. They're like, they got that, like they're spiritual people, you know. But they took the books away, and they were trying to read them, and they were reading them on that like academic, I'm going to study this and try and acquire this knowledge and learn it. And
nice.
Yeah, it was really nice. But they were like saying, I'm struggling I can't get it, you know. But all it took was like, we just had a chat, a conversation about it, and it just sort of like, somehow the penny dropped, you know. And I was just like being some kind of like part of the tree. I was just like letting the energy flow out, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't really...
You just deliver the message.
Yeah, I wasn't doing anything, but it was just like, I could see the penny dropping.
Yeah.
And it was really nice to see that, like... Do you know what I mean? Like, because it's like that, when you try and do it, when you try and like acquire it, it's really difficult. You need to just have that association, that like connection to that line.
Yeah. There's definitely that social aspect.
Yeah.
And like the first time I read Bhagavad Gita, I was reading Bhagavad Gita, but I only really understood Bhagavad Gita when I started going to the Bhagavad Gita class with Tarkanath, you know, where he was going through it, and it was just something about it being explained to me. You know, I wasn't like you get some of my friends like Vamsi Vilasi, and you know, he just read the book and thought, wow, this is amazing, this is the meaning of life, and I should live my life like. And he read it in quite a deep way just the first time round. Yeah. The first time I read Bhagavad Gita, I was like, I just read the verses in bold, and I thought, okay, I've read it now. Yeah. I've read the Gita, but it wasn't until it was actually explained to me. I was like, oh yeah, this is pretty profound, actually. You know.
Nice.
Yeah,
it's nice.
That's one of the reasons why we do this podcast sort of thing, because I think it does help. You know, because sometimes these literatures can be a little esoteric, and if it's just explained sort of thing. But these purports by Srila Prabhupada in the books have like such a profound power and clarity in every sentence that, you know, sometimes the most profound way to is just by reading these books out loud, you know. Yeah. That's the best way to understand them, and I think
that's an interesting point, the out loud part as well.
Yeah.
Like, because the Vedas is all about sound vibrations, isn't it? So like when you actually saying it out loud, is vibrating. Yeah. Like it's there's some mystical quality to like all this stuff to do with sound, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Even if you just read it in your mind, there's a sound, there's an ether, there's sound in ether, you know?
Ether. The sound in ether.
Like in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it talks about the material elements, and it said there's even like it's called like a subtle sound, which is before the sound comes out of your mouth, sort of thing, before you make the sound.
Yeah.
There's a type of sort of subtle communication or subtle sound that, you know, same level as your mind sort of thing that appears in the world before it becomes manifest externally. There's some technical thing like that, you know.
All the vibrations, like get on that vibe.
It isn't it? They did some experiment, and they looked at people's brains before they make a choice to do something. they could see that the brain was working, or at least the electromagnetic sort of, there was things happening in the body that signaled the person was about to make a decision, a conscious decision, before the person seemed to be aware of it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Which is very, very interesting. You know, people are saying, well, does that remove free will?
Yeah.
You know? But one professor was saying, well, and he was aware of the Bhagavad Gita, he was saying, my addiction prakriti, sute satcharatram, hetunakana kuntaya jagat, what's the last line? Jagat vipar vivartate. Everything is being moved. You know, the material nature is actually being moved by the higher power, and the living being as this conscious spiritual spark is sort of on the river of the material world sort of thing. And you have to make a conscious decision to redirect yourself, you know, which is why different things like habits and lifestyle choices are powerful, because once you create a habit, then it almost runs your life for you, sort of thing, because you naturally do it out of habit, you know. So to go out of your way to create good habits is a way to be an architect of the life you want to be, you know. So, you know, a habit, once it's hard to make, but once it's made, it's hard to break, sort of thing. So if you make an effort to break the bad habits and cultivate good ones, it might take a while of difficulty, but once you've established that, then you'll live the life you want to live. So
It's interesting what you said there. Like free will, from what you're saying, it seems like free will is not like okay, I'm going to decide right now, this is my free will. Free will is more of like a zoomed out. Like if you really want to have free will, you've got to like steer the whole journey. I don't know, like, because you're saying the material energy is being moved around.
It's
Like-
it's interesting. Like
so,
Krishna
like-
talks about the modes in the Bhagavad Gita. There's the modes of material nature. And he says, you know, there's different modalities of the world. And acting in one of these three categories, even though you get mixtures, but just for the sake of explaining, you get goodness, passion, and ignorance. Acting in a certain way, you get a certain result. So therefore, you know, in order to become happier in this world, there's certain habits, and Krishna lists them quite clearly in the Bhagavad Gita in a few places, you know, like cleanliness and, you know, eating things that aren't like, you know, dead animal flesh and stuff like that. And there's many things. You create your own future, you know, and whatever you cultivate, that influences your future decisions. So I think it is interesting. And there's I don't want to go on too long, but that conversation between Akundadi and the other professor that's on the Theology Unleashed video. This person was the world expert in physicalism, which basically is the modern word for materialism. So basically they just reduce all of reality down to just simple material cause and effect, ultimately. Sounds like a bit of oversimplification, but ultimately that's what it is. You know, this like the universe is a big chain reaction from start to finish or never finish. And it's just cause and effect on and on, like a dominoes sort of thing. So he was the world expert in physicalism, and he's written many books. But Akundadi was saying, well, in your paradigm, there is no free will. You know, and he tried to say, because naturally, instinctively, we say there is free will. You know, nature is a living being. Like there was one boy, and I spoke to him in the university, and he says, you know, he was a philosophy sort of studied philosophy. He's like, you know, free will. I said, because I was asking, what do you believe then? You know, free will, I think, is all a joke. You know, there is no free will. You know? I was like, okay, that's it. You know, I didn't want to get into an argument or anything, and I didn't want to be offensive or anything. I was like, all right, okay. Anyway, what do you want to do after uni? I'm not sure. I'm still trying to decide. You know, either I want to be a teacher, or I might just go work for a bit or travel. You know, I'm still trying to decide. And I was saying, well, you don't need to worry about deciding. If there's no free will, then surely the choice is already made for you, right? You don't need to worry about it. So even those who say there is no free will, instinctively we all believe there is. You know, so similarly, this professor on physicalism was saying he does believe in free will, because he said whatever decisions I choose to make are from my own beliefs, etc., etc. But Akundadi was trying to make the point to him, but he didn't understand. I was quite shocked how little this person was able to grasp what Akundadi was trying to see in consciousness. But he didn't, you know, Akundadi was saying, well, no, there is no free will, because even your beliefs and everything you believe, according to your philosophy of physicalism is a predetermined or an outcome of all the different just random chain reactions that's happened before.
Yeah.
So you have no choice.
Yeah.
So unless if you want to be a materialist, then there is no free will. And then that also, there's questions of morality. You know, why do we even have a prison system? You know, that if there's no free will, you know, that this person, he had no choice. He had to rob the bank because of time immemorial. The chain reaction from different material elements has forced him to do it. You know, it's not his fault.
Yeah.
Oh no, he made a choice. Okay, so then you're saying there's something else at work other than material elements. There's another element in this world apart from atoms and neutrons that controls atom and neutrons, that moves the body, that moves material elements. What is that? That is consciousness. What is consciousness? Look into the Vedic literature and look into spiritual life.
Nice. Yeah. And this is if you're wondering what we're talking about as well, Theology Unleashed, they like sort of get into
It's hit and miss, isn't
it's
it?
hit and miss. But we'll
Sometimes it's just you're just watching theists just. I think they've lost the debate against these atheists.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It's cringing, you know. But sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's...
Will, this is Akhundi's. He's good friends with us, like T. Krishna and all of that. He's been practicing spiritual life for like 40 plus years, right? 50 years.
Yeah.
And we'll link it on the Welsh Yogi Facebook if you're interested in watching an interesting debate about like the argument between like a materialistic perspective and a spiritual perspective, the Vedantic perspective. It's quite interesting, especially if you're into more like if you're quite a scientific thinker.
Yeah.
Like so yeah, we'll make sure we link that as soon as.
But Kennedy could have gone in much more.
Yeah.
You know, like he's such an expert on consciousness
Oh yeah.
that this physicalism professor, it's like he couldn't even understand the first hurdle. It's almost as if like he couldn't understand, you know, just the aspect of consciousness. You know, what's perceiving the world around. Like, so Akhundity Akhundity is like a deep ocean of scientific spiritual knowledge, and it's a shame. I think that I hope Akhundity gets another opportunity in a debate forum like that. That Akhundity can really, display his stuff, you know.
His universal form.
Yeah. His intellectual form.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. Yeah, so we missed a week last week, but we did a double length special episode today, I think.
Yeah.
To make up for it, ish. But thanks for watching, everyone. If you want a Sri Upanishad, we'll send you one. We are sending one to someone.
Yeah, someone wanted a Sri Upanishad, didn't they? We thought it got sent, but it hasn't. So
From Swansea. He's from Swansea.
Swansea, is it?
I forgot his name.
The address doesn't say Swansea.
Doesn't it? Anyway.
No, maybe you're thinking of someone else.
Maybe I am. But we'll send that out. And if you need one, let us know. Facebook.
Oh, yeah, he's in Swansea.
Swansea. What's his name? Lee Cooper or something?
Edgar Allan Crow.
Edgar Allan Crow. We'll send you your Bishop Upanishad in the post.
It's coming in the post today, yeah.
But thanks for watching, everyone, and listening. And if you
Yeah, we want to work out how to make it sharp with 3 microphones.
Yeah.
So we can have more guests. We can have Charlie on a bit more, you know. Charlie was telling some of the other boys some of his realizations, and, you know, you had like Rohini and some devotees who have been around a long time.
Yeah.
And even though Charlie is relatively new, they were like, Charlie's realizations are extremely profound, you know.
he's blushing now.
It's what you get when you have like, it's almost like an added, like the process of understanding spiritual life. There's added benefit of being almost like pure-hearted and like having a simple, clear heart sort of thing, like unmotivated. It helps sort of, especially bhakti knowledge or knowledge of love, helps you understand these things in a special way. So it's nice when you see like, so in that respect, you've got people like Charlie, who's, you know, even though at the minute, a lot of the podcasts, he's sort of in the background, just making sure the sound is okay, etc. But he's very sort of qualified, especially in qualities like gentleness and humility and compassion, to speak on these, especially like Sri Upanishad on the Vedas, but in a way that really touches people's hearts. Yeah. So I'd like to get another microphone somehow or other.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not just me blabbering on. You know.
And me.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha